An editorial defense analysis examining South Korea's military readiness and regional security.
The prospective acquisition of up to 12 patrol submarines by the Royal Canadian Navy represents a pivotal moment. It is a turning point not only for North American maritime defense, but for the global hierarchy of naval industrial powers. With a projected value approaching 60 billion Canadian dollars, the Canadian Patrol Submarine project is less a standard procurement contract than a generational integration of industrial bases. It demands a partner capable of delivering a platform that balances the harsh realities of Arctic operations with the nuances of alliance politics. For the South Korean defense industry, specifically regarding the proposal of the KSS-III Batch 2 platform, this competition serves as a critical stress test. It tests the transition from a price-competitive alternative to a Tier 1 strategic partner. However, the trajectory of this bid is currently complicated. There is a divergence between technical lethality and industrial cohesion, a friction that threatens to undermine the comparative advantages of the South Korean proposition against its primary competitor, the Japanese Taigei-class. To understand the stakes, one must first analyze the operational geography that dictates the Canadian requirement. This geography inherently filters the field of potential suppliers. Unlike European navies operating in the relatively confined capability sets of the Baltic or the Mediterranean, Canada requires a boat capable of transiting 3 oceans. Crucially, it must sustain operations under the Arctic ice cap. This necessitates a hull displacement significantly exceeding the standard 2,000-ton designs common in NATO inventories. The requirement for a long-range, conventional submarine with high endurance effectively narrows the competition to a duopoly of Asian shipbuilders: South Korea and Japan. Both nations have successfully fielded diesel-electric platforms in the 3,000-ton to 4,000-ton range, a feat that European shipyards have largely only theorized on paper. For South Korea, this validates the strategic decision to pursue the larger KSS-III design over smaller license-produced iterations. It positions the domestic industry as a unique supplier of large displacement conventional hulls. From a technical standpoint, the South Korean value proposition centers on a doctrine of heavy lethality and hybrid propulsion. The KSS-III Batch 2 distinguishes itself through the integration of a vertical launch system, a capability absent in the Japanese competitor. This feature fundamentally alters the tactical profile of the submarine. It transforms it from a pure anti-shipping and anti-submarine asset into a platform capable of land attack and strategic deterrence. In the context of the South Korean kill chain doctrine, this makes perfect sense. However, for Canada, the utility of such a system introduces a complex debate. It forces a choice regarding offensive capability versus defensive patrolling. While the vertical launch system offers Ottawa a significant qualitative edge and a potential conventional deterrent in the high north, it also imposes a higher logistical and cost burden compared to torpedo-only configurations. The analysis suggests that while South Korea offers a platform with a higher ceiling for offensive operations, this must align with a Canadian naval doctrine that has historically prioritized surveillance and sea control over projection of power ashore. A further technical divergence exists in the approach to energy storage. This is a critical factor for under-ice operations where surfacing to snorkel is operationally hazardous or impossible. Both competitors advocate for lithium-ion battery technology, yet their integration strategies differ. The Japanese approach with the Taigei-class involves a complete abandonment of air-independent propulsion in favor of a pure lithium-ion configuration. They are banking on the sheer energy density of the batteries for endurance. In contrast, the South Korean design retains a hybrid architecture. It combines lithium-ion batteries with an air-independent propulsion system. This structural choice suggests a risk mitigation strategy. It offers the sprint speed and quietness of lithium batteries while retaining the low-speed endurance insurance provided by the air-independent propulsion fuel cells. For a client like Canada, operating in vast and remote distinct maritime zones, the hybrid approach may offer a perceived redundancy. It aligns better with risk-averse operational planning, despite the increased complexity of maintaining two separate propulsion energy systems. However, technical specifications function only as the baseline for entry. The decisive variables in a program of this magnitude are often industrial and political. It is here that the South Korean position faces its most acute systemic vulnerability. The current legal and corporate friction between Hanwha Ocean and HD Hyundai Heavy Industries presents a fragmented interface to the client. Unlike the Japanese consortium, which operates under a unified, government-coordinated export strategy involving Mitsubishi and Kawasaki, the South Korean defense sector is currently projecting internal instability. From an acquisition perspective, the Canadian government is known for its extreme sensitivity to procurement risk and liability. They may view the ongoing litigation and intellectual property disputes within the South Korean shipbuilding sector as a threat to program continuity. If the supply chain is paralyzed by domestic legal injunctions, or if the transfer of technical data is hampered by corporate rivalries, the operational readiness of the Royal Canadian Navy suffers. This industrial fractiousness potentially negates the technical lead of the KSS-III. Reliability and delivery often outweighs marginal gains in performance. Furthermore, the geopolitical dimension introduces a trade-off between alliance integration and technology transfer. Japan benefits from its status as a G7 member and a central pillar of the United States strategy in the Indo-Pacific. This offers Canada a seamless political alignment. A procurement from Japan would strengthen the interoperability of the Northern Pacific security architecture. To counter this, South Korea has historically relied on a robust model of technology transfer and local industrialization. The willingness to localize production and share intellectual property has been the cornerstone of South Korean successes in Poland and Southeast Asia. In the Canadian context, where the creation of local jobs and maintenance capabilities is a political imperative, the South Korean readiness to export the entire industrial ecosystem of the KSS-III provides a potent asymmetric advantage. It stands in contrast to the historically reticent Japanese approach to technology sharing. Yet, this aggressive localization strategy carries its own long-term risks for the South Korean industrial base. It potentially empowers a future competitor in the specialized market of large conventional submarines. The financial architecture of the bid also reveals a constraint within the South Korean support system. The sheer scale of the 60 billion Canadian dollar program tests the limits of government-backed financing. While recent legislative adjustments have increased the lending cap of the Export-Import Bank of Korea, the simultaneous execution of massive land systems, contracts in Europe, and naval aspirations in North America places immense pressure on state financial guarantees. This necessitates a careful calibration of credit extension. It ensures that the pursuit of the Canadian contract does not overextend the financial instruments required to sustain the momentum of land system exports. The ability of Seoul to package a creative and sustainable financing model will be as critical as the hull efficiency or the acoustic signature of the submarine itself. Ultimately, the competition for the Canadian Patrol Submarine project serves as a bellwether. It tests the maturity of the South Korean defense ecosystem. The KSS-III Batch 2 represents a pinnacle of conventional submarine engineering. It offers a unique blend of strategic lethality and endurance that technically surpasses many existing NATO platforms. However, the translation of this engineering prowess into a finalized export contract is currently hindered. It faces the lack of a cohesive national export structure that can mask domestic corporate friction. The outcome will depend on whether the South Korean defense apparatus can consolidate its industrial actors into a unified entity, one that reassures the client of long-term stability, or whether the technical brilliance of the platform will be overshadowed by the perceived safety of a G7-aligned, politically unified Japanese alternative. The decision points ahead involve not just naval architecture. They involve the architecture of the state-industry relationship itself.